Hey everyone, I'm in a bit of a rough spot and really need to get some things off my chest and maybe get some advice. I'm a 28-year-old woman and I've been dating my boyfriend Adam, who's 32, for about a year now. He's been truly amazing, really supportive, especially through some of the tougher times I've been going through. One of those tough times is dealing with my older brother Matt, who's 34. So here's the deal. Growing up, Matt was always seen as the golden child in our family, and I kind of felt like I was just there, like a doormat. He used to tease me a lot, make fun of the things I liked, and generally treated me like I was less important. Whenever I brought it up to our parents, they didn't really do much about it. They'd usually say stuff like, boys will be boys, or he's just joking around, or they'd tell me not to be so sensitive. This whole pattern didn't stop as we got older. It actually kept going right into our adult lives. Matt still makes these condescending comments to me, always brushes off any cool things I accomplish, and pretty much expects me to be there to help him out whenever he needs something, without ever saying thanks or returning the favor. It's super frustrating. I've tried talking to him about how this makes me feel, hoping he'd see my point of view and maybe start treating me better. But every time I bring it up, he just laughs it off or tells me I'm overreacting, which just makes things worse. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, I work at a museum in our city, a job I absolutely love and am super passionate about. But even with something as cool as that, Matt finds ways to belittle it. He thinks it's a waste of time and constantly tells me I could do something more useful with my life. Last weekend, Adam and I were at a family gathering. Matt was in rare form, belittling me in front of everyone about my job. I was trying to brush it off as usual, but Adam wasn't having it. He stepped in and told Matt to stop treating me like a doormat and to start respecting me as an equal. Things escalated quickly. Matt got defensive, and the situation turned into a heated argument. Adam called Matt out on all the times he's treated me poorly and accused him of being a bully. Matt fired back, saying Adam didn't know what he was talking about and should mind his own business. Our parents tried to defuse the situation but ended up taking Matt's side, saying Adam was overstepping and causing unnecessary drama. Now Matt is furious with me. He says I should have stuck up for him and defended him against Adam. He claims that by not doing so, I've betrayed our family and humiliated him in front of everyone. My parents are also disappointed, feeling like I should have controlled the situation better. Adam feels bad that things got so heated but stands by his actions, saying someone needed to finally call Matt out on his behavior. I'm torn. On one hand, I appreciate Adam standing up for me. But on the other hand, I feel guilty for not defending my brother in that moment. Am I the jerk for not sticking up for my brother? Should I have done something to defuse the situation? I wanted to add that part of why I didn't defend Adam more strongly is because whenever I did try to say something in his defense, my parents just bulldozed over me. Every time I tried to speak, they'd yell over me, which brought back all the feelings of clamming up like I did when I was younger. It made me freeze up and just stand there, especially since it seemed to only make Matt even angrier. I felt trapped, not knowing how to diffuse the tension, as it got worse and worse by the end of the entire thing. I was just standing there crying, and Adam took me to our car to go home. I've been fielding phone calls from my parents and brother since last weekend. I know I'm not responding to people, but I just posted this on a whim and just put it away. Now for an update. Hi all, I just woke up to more comments. I'm just writing this edit to say I'm going to visit my Aunt Olivia tonight to discuss what happened. She hosted the get-together and has always been someone I can turn to for help or advice when I need it. She and my uncle usually do step in to defuse these situations when they're around, but they were both in the kitchen when this happened. Aunt Olivia understands the family dynamics better than anyone, so I'm hoping she can give me some clarity. Also, please stop messaging me, saying that Adam should leave me. Adam has been incredibly supportive and we're handling this together. I appreciate everyone's concern and I understand people not liking that. I froze, but it's what happened. I love Adam, and he's been amazing for my self-confidence, but I still struggle with it around my parents and brother. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are the jerk for not having your boyfriend's back when your jerk family attacked him for defending you. Why are you still in contact with your jerk family who, by your own account, belittle you and treat you like a doormat? Why are you letting your boyfriend stand up to them alone when he is only trying to protect you? Why is your first instinct to be concerned about your jerk family and not your boyfriend, the only person who has your back? Comment 2. Let me see on one side your brother belittling you and your parents backing the golden child on the other side, a caring boyfriend who refuses to allow you to be disrespected. The scales don't even begin to match. You are not the jerk, Opie, but you will be to yourself if you don't start demanding simple respect and basic courtesy. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support and advice. So here's what's been happening since my last update. After the blow up at the family gathering, I went to visit on Olivia as planned. She was really understanding and gave me some solid advice. She suggested that I take a break from my family to clear my head and figure out what I really want. She also mentioned that Matt has always been insecure, which is why he lashes out at me. This made me think about how much I've been letting his insecurities affect my life. Adam and I decided to take a short trip to get away from all the drama. We went to a cabin in the mountains for a week just to relax and spend some quality time together. It was amazing to disconnect from everything and just focus on us. During this time, Adam and I had some deep conversations about our future. He told me that he wants to marry me someday, but he's worried about how my family dynamics will affect our relationship. This was a wake-up call for me. I realized that I need to set boundaries with my family if I want to have a healthy relationship with Adam. When we got back, I decided to have a serious talk with my parents and Matt. I told them that I need some space and that I won't tolerate any more disrespect from Matt. My parents were shocked and Matt was furious. He accused me of being brainwashed by Adam and said that I was abandoning my family. My parents tried to mediate, but I stood my ground. I told them that I love them, but I need to prioritize my mental health and my relationship with Adam. Things were tense for a while, but I felt a sense of relief. I started focusing more on my job at the museum, which has been going really well. I even got a promotion to a managerial position, which was a huge confidence boost. Adam was so proud of me, and it felt great to have his support. However, the peace didn't last long. A few weeks later, I got a call from my mom. She told me that Matt had been in a car accident and was in the hospital. I rushed to the hospital with Adam, and when we got there, my parents were already there. Matt had some minor injuries, but was going to be okay. My parents were relieved, but Matt was still angry with me. He blamed me for not being there for him and said that if I hadn't distanced myself, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. This was a low blow and it hurt deeply. Adam tried to comfort me, but I felt a mix of guilt and anger. I knew that Matt was just lashing out because he was scared and in pain, but it still stung. I decided to step back again and focus on my own life. I couldn't keep letting Matt's issues drag me down. A few days later, I got a call from Aunt Olivia. She told me that Matt had been struggling with some personal issues and that the accident was a wake-up call for him. He realized that he needed to make some changes in his life, and Olivia suggested that I give Matt another chance and try to rebuild our relationship. I was hesitant, but I agreed to meet with him. When I met Matt, he seemed different. He apologized for how he's treated me over the years and admitted that he's been dealing with a lot of insecurities. He said that he wants to work on our relationship and be a better brother. I was skeptical, but I decided to give him a chance. We started meeting regularly for coffee and slowly began to rebuild our relationship. Things were going well for a while, but then something unexpected happened. I found out that Matt had been talking to my parents about my relationship with Adam. He told them that Adam was controlling and that I was making a mistake by staying with him. This felt like a betrayal, especially after we had been working on rebuilding our relationship. I confronted Matt about it, and he denied everything at first, but eventually he admitted that he was worried about losing me to Adam and that he thought he was protecting me. This was a huge setback, and I felt like all the progress we had made was for nothing. I told Matt that I needed more space and that I couldn't trust him right now. This whole situation has been incredibly draining. Adam has been my rock through all of this, but I can see that it's taking a toll on him too. He's been patient and supportive, but I know that he wants me to stand up for myself more. I feel like I'm stuck between my family and my relationship, and it's tearing me apart. Looking back, I realize that my relationship with Matt has always been complicated. Growing up, he was always the favorite, and I was constantly trying to prove myself. I remember one time when I was about 10 years old, I won a schoolyard competition. I was so proud of myself. But Matt just laughed and said that it was a silly achievement. My parents didn't say anything, and I felt crushed. This pattern continued throughout our lives, and I always felt like I was never good enough. I think a lot of Matt's behavior stems from his own insecurities. He's always been competitive and has a hard time dealing with his own failures. I remember when he didn't get into his first choice college. He was devastated. Instead of dealing with his feelings, he took it out on me. This doesn't excuse his behavior, but it helps me understand where he's coming from. As for my parents, they've always tried to keep the peace, but in doing so, they've enabled Matt's behavior. They never wanted to take sides. But by not standing up for me, they were essentially taking Matt's side. This has been a hard pill to swallow, but it's something I need to accept if I want to move forward. Right now, I'm focusing on my job and my relationship with Adam. I'm trying to set boundaries with my family and prioritize my own well-being. It's not easy, but I know it's necessary. I'm hopeful that things will get better, but I'm also prepared for the possibility that they might not. Thanks for reading. Story 2. Am I the idiot for not lying to help my friends appeal against a biased professor? So, my friend, I'll call. Sam and I are currently in our university finals week of this school year, and there is one class we share in this class. Sam is convinced the professor dislikes her and is marking her down on her other classwork because of his bias. I don't know if this is true. Our final was a minimum 2 100-word essay, utilizing the papers and resources discussed throughout the semester. So it isn't supposed to be a drawn-out research paper with tons of outside sources. We were told about this paper at the beginning of the semester and were advised by the instructor to start it last week because no late submission would be accepted. I write down the due dates of all of my projects and essays one day early as a way to trick myself into not turning any in late. Sometimes it works, and Sam knows this. This has caused Sam to not ask me when things are due because she says she works best under a time crunch, and I'll usually give her a different day. While I was working on my essay 4 days ago, I asked Sam, who was watching a show, if she was going to work on hers. She told me she would start it later and that she would be fine, so I let it go. The following day, I was working on my essay, and I would ask her about her essay. But eventually, she got fed up with my nagging and told me to stop asking her about it. I completed my essay by the deadline I had given myself, June 9th at 11:59 p.m., and turned it in during all of our other projects for the class. The deadline was 11:59 p.m. on the due date. However, apparently for the final, the due date was 11 a.m. on June 10th. Sam had planned on cramming her paper during the 10th, but since she's a late sleeper, she didn't wake up until well past 11 a.m., causing her to miss the turn in time. When she woke up, she realized that she had missed the time and got super upset. The final essay is worth 25% of our total grade, and since it will be going in as a 0, she will likely either fail or barely pass the class because of her current grade. She asked me if I knew about the 11 a.m. deadline, and I told her that I had forgotten about it. But she didn't believe me. She told me that it was my fault that she was going to fail and that I should have told her the turn-in time because the professor would have found any excuse to knock down her grade. To add, the turn-in time is explicitly stated in the Word doc instructions document the professor shared, but I had changed the due date and time on my copy as soon as I got it on our university's class's website. We don't use Canvas, but something similar. You can find the time the submission page closes, so I could have found the official turn-in time and told her. So am I the idiot for not telling her the turn-in deadline for the paper? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You told me to stop nagging you, so I did. It's not and should never have been my responsibility to tell you when your work is due. I tried to remind you many times, and you told me to stop saying that you would get it done. I did what you asked. Comment 2. You can find the time. The submission page closes, so I could have found the official turn-in time and told her, not the idiot. You know who else could have checked the time? Submissions close your roommate now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. After Sam missed the deadline for our final essay, things got pretty tense between us. She was really upset and blamed me for not reminding her about the 11 a.m. deadline. I tried to explain that I genuinely forgot about it, but she wasn't having any of it. She kept saying that I should have known better and that I set her up to fail. It was hard to see her so angry, especially since we've been friends for a long time. In the days following the missed deadline, Sam became more distant. She stopped hanging out with our usual group and avoided me whenever possible. I felt guilty, even though I knew it wasn't entirely my fault. I started questioning if I could have done more to help her. Maybe I should have double-checked the deadline and reminded her, even if she told me to stop nagging. But what's done is done, and I couldn't change the past. Sam decided to appeal to the professor, hoping to get some leniency. She wrote a long email explaining her situation, mentioning her belief that the professor was biased against her. She even asked me to back her up by writing a supporting email. I was torn. On one hand, I wanted to help my friend, but on the other hand, I didn't want to lie or get involved in something that could backfire. I told her I needed some time to think about it while I was mulling over what to do. I noticed that Sam's behavior was affecting her other classes too. She started skipping lectures and not turning in assignments. It was like she had given up. I tried talking to her about it, but she brushed me off, saying she didn't need my help. It was frustrating to see her spiral like this, and I felt helpless. One day, I ran into our mutual friend Alex, who mentioned that Sam had been talking to another professor about her situation. Apparently, she was trying to get an extension on another project by using the same excuse about the professor's bias. This made me uneasy. It seemed like Sam was using the bias angle as a crutch to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. I didn't know what to think anymore. As finals week progressed, I focused on my own studies, but the situation with Sam was always in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that our friendship was hanging by a thread. I decided to talk to my academic advisor about it, hoping for some guidance. She advised me to be honest with Sam and to set boundaries. She also suggested that I encourage Sam to seek help from the university's counseling services. I took her advice and tried to have a heart-to-heart with Sam. I told her that I cared about her and that I was worried about her. I also mentioned that I couldn't lie for her in the email to the professor. She didn't take it well. She accused me of not being a true friend and said that I was abandoning her when she needed me the most. It hurt to hear that, but I knew I had to stand my ground. A few days later, I found out that the professor had denied Sam's appeal. She was devastated and blamed me even more. She said that if I had backed her up, things might have turned out differently. I felt awful, but I also knew that I had made the right decision. I couldn't compromise my integrity, even for a friend. In the aftermath of the appeal, Sam's behavior became more erratic. She started lashing out at other friends and isolating herself even more. It was clear that she was struggling, and I wished there was something I could do to help. I reached out to Alex and a few other friends, and we decided to stage an intervention. We wanted to let Sam know that we were there for her and that she needed to get help. The intervention didn't go as planned. Sam was defensive and angry, accusing us of ganging up on her. She stormed out, and we were left feeling defeated. I couldn't help but wonder if we had made things worse. But I knew we had to try. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my own well-being. I stayed in touch with Alex and our other friends, and we supported each other through the stress of finals. I also made an effort to reach out to Sam, even if she didn't respond. I wanted her to know that I still cared. One day I received a message from Sam. She apologized for her behavior and admitted that she had been struggling with more than just the missed deadline. She revealed that she had been dealing with personal issues that she hadn't shared with anyone. She thanked me for trying to help and said that she was going to seek counseling. It was a relief to hear from her, but I knew that our friendship would never be the same. Trust had been broken and it would take time to rebuild. But I was willing to try, and I hoped that Sam would find the help she needed. Looking back, I realized that the situation had tested my loyalties and forced me to make difficult decisions. It wasn't easy, but I learned a lot about myself and what it means to be a true friend. Thank you for reading. Story 3. Am I the idiot for calling out my boyfriend for mocking my passion in front of our friends? A little background. We've been going out since high school and have a very jokey relationship. Poking fun for the most part isn't out of the question, though. If one of us says we aren't comfortable with one of the jokes, the other makes an effort not to make it again. I've been a bit of an obsessive fan of a music artist since I was 14. I have more than one tattoo inspired by this artist and her aesthetic. I have seen her in concert multiple times. I own more merchandise than I can say, and have run several different fan accounts devoted to her during this time. I understand this is weird. I try not to bring it up in everyday conversation because I am aware it is weird. Most people who know me in passing do not know this about me, and only my best friend and my boyfriend know about my fan accounts. I am not the person who talks about this artist constantly. I am not the person who is annoying in large groups about it anymore. There was a learning curve when I was in high school, but losing friends is a great motivator to fix yourself. My boyfriend has on and off made jokes about this since we got together. Admittedly, whenever I bring up that, it makes me feel insecure and unsafe expressing myself around him. He stops for a while, but he always starts up again, and it just bothers me. I can't fully explain it, but it makes me feel like the things I like are somehow inherently bad, and that he wants me to stop having this interest because he doesn't see value in it. Now, he's never said that, and I don't genuinely believe that, but that's how he makes me feel. An example. I'd been cleaning dishes and listening to her music when he came into the kitchen and started singing along in the most high-pitched, off-key falsetto voice I had ever heard before, busting up and turning it off and saying something like, "I don't see how you listen to this crap." This was one of the times I told him that he had hurt my feelings. He apologized, explained that he had only meant it as a lighthearted joke, and that he didn't care what kind of music I listened to. I don't really get mad over this. It more just hurts my feelings. Context out of the way. We were out at dinner with his friends and their girlfriends. I had left to go to the bathroom and came back to him, showing them a video on his phone, and the audio was familiar right away. It was a performance from over a decade ago that was panned pretty universally. They were all laughing, and he was making a lot of jokes until he noticed I had gone quiet and said to lighten up. I tried to smile, but he wouldn't drop it, and I said, "I don't like your music either, but I would never make fun of you for it. You know that." It was a quiet meal and ride home, and he is now barely talking to me. Two of the girlfriends there said I made everything awkward, and that I was being unfair because we always made jokes with each other. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'd say not the jerk, specifically because you've told that you feel uncomfortable with him making jokes about it, and he went and made the joke in front of his friends and their girlfriends. Honestly, I'd have a sit down and tell him how you feel and where you stand, and take the situation from there. But it is quite disrespectful of your feelings the way he disregards them. My boyfriend has on and off made jokes about this since we got together. Admittedly, whenever I bring up that it makes me feel insecure and unsafe expressing myself around him, he stops for a while, but he always starts up again, and it just bothers me. Comment 2. Not the jerk. Isn't it interesting how someone says or does something hurtful, and once the other person reacts badly, they start going on about how it was just a joke and you're a bore for not getting it? Jokes are supposed to be funny. You told him several times you are not comfortable with him poking at your favorite artist, which is understandable. He promises he won't do it anymore, and he then breaks his promise time and again. He knows how it bothers you, and he just doesn't care. And the fact that you have fan accounts and tattoos inspired by your favorite artist doesn't justify him disrespecting your wishes. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. After that awkward dinner, things between my boyfriend and me were tense for a while. We barely spoke for a few days, and when we did, it was mostly about mundane stuff like groceries or chores. I could tell he was still upset, and honestly, I was too. I felt like he didn't understand how much his jokes hurt me, and he probably felt like I overreacted. About a week after the dinner, we finally had a serious talk. I told him how his jokes made me feel, and he admitted that he didn't realize it was such a big deal to me. He apologized again, and I thought we were making progress. For a while, things seemed to get better. He stopped making jokes about my music, and I tried to be more understanding of his sense of humor. But then, about a month later, something happened that escalated everything. We were at a party at one of his friends' houses. It was a pretty big gathering, and I didn't know most of the people there. At some point, someone put on a playlist, and one of my favorite songs by the artist I love came on. I was excited and started singing along quietly. My boyfriend noticed, and in front of everyone started mimicking me in that same high-pitched off-key voice he had used before. Everyone laughed, and I felt humiliated. I left the party early and went home. When he got back, we had another argument. I told him that I couldn't keep doing this, that his jokes were making me feel like I couldn't be myself around him. He said he was just trying to be funny, and that I was being too sensitive. We didn't resolve anything that night, and I started to seriously question our relationship. A couple of weeks later, I got an opportunity to see my favorite artist in concert again. It was a last-minute thing, and I was thrilled. I told my boyfriend about it, expecting him to be happy for me. Instead, he rolled his eyes and said something like another concert. Haven't you seen her enough times already? That was the breaking point for me. I realized that he would never understand or respect my passion for this artist. I decided to go to the concert alone. It was an amazing experience, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy and free. But when I got back, things with my boyfriend were worse than ever. He was distant and cold, and I could tell he was still upset about the argument we had before the concert. One night we had another serious talk. I told him that I couldn't keep living like this, that I needed to be with someone who respected my interests and passions. He said he loved me and didn't want to lose me, but he also admitted that he didn't understand why I was so obsessed with this artist. He said he felt like he was competing with her for my attention, and that it made him feel insecure. That was a revelation for me. I had never thought about it from his perspective before. I realized that his jokes were his way of dealing with his own insecurities, but that didn't make them any less hurtful. I told him that I understood how he felt, but that I couldn't keep sacrifice, chasing my own happiness to make him feel better. We decided to take a break from each other to figure things out. During the break, I had a lot of time to think. I realized that my obsession with this artist had been a way for me to escape from my own insecurities and fears. I had always felt like I wasn't good enough, and my love for this artist gave me something to hold on to, something that made me feel special and unique. But I also realized that I needed to find a balance, that I couldn't let my passion for this artist overshadow my relationship. After a month apart, we decided to meet up and talk. We both agreed that we still loved each other and wanted to make things work. But we also knew that we needed to make some changes. I promised to be more mindful of how my obsession affected our relationship, and he promised to be more respectful of my interests. It's been a couple of weeks since we got back together, and things are slowly getting better. We're both making an effort to communicate more openly and honestly, and to be more understanding of each other's feelings. It's not easy, and we still have a long way to go, but I feel hopeful for the first time in a long time. Looking back, I realized that our relationship had always been built on a foundation of jokes and teasing. It was fun and lighthearted, but it also made it hard for us to deal with serious issues. We both used humor as a way to avoid dealing with our insecurities and fears. But now we're learning to be more vulnerable with each other, to share our true feelings, and to support each other in a more meaningful way.